Hello, everyone, and welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Sol, and I got Jason here with me. Jason, how you doing?
I'm back in the TVA. We're here to talk about Loki.
Yep. We're here to talk about Loki Season 2, Episode 3. We did skip last week because I was on vacation, so a little non-spoiler, just real quick, how'd you feel about Episode 2 before we go into Episode 3?
It was good. I liked the McDonald's stuff. I wish they would have spent a little. I don't know. I felt like that. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time kind of pursuing the other characters. Like it
Yeah.
just like you felt like it felt like she had a connection with the other people that were in that town based off of how they were doing, but you didn't get to spend enough time with them, so it just felt
Yeah.
a little. They kept on telling us that she was happy, but like not showing us. It felt like so, but it was still like um, then to see Docs and that whole thing, I was like, wow, that was kind of crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
set up a
For
great episode
me,
3.
For me, I really enjoyed the beginning and the London scenes, especially because I was getting a little James Bond esque from Loki there. And I was like, okay, I see you, Loki. And just the interactions between, what is it, X5 is his name, and then Loki and Mobius. It was interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. And also Ki Ho Kwan, as we said in the first episode, we love, love, love.
Give me more. Give me more.
But we're not here to talk about episode 2. We're here to talk about episode 3. So before we spoil anything, general thoughts of episode 3.
I was surprised about certain things that we'll talk about. Um, but I did like how it overall went. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to hear your views on certain things because, um, yeah, Sylvie to me is falling into the same trap that I feel like a little bit of last year, but
Hmm.
where she seems very one-dimensional. But yeah, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. What'd you think?
So these 2 episodes didn't reach the high of episode 1, but as like episode 1, Ki Ho Kwan is my favorite part of the show so far. There was interesting stuff. There was stuff that I'm like, okay, I can see what you're doing. I don't know how I feel about it yet because now with these shows, I've been very cautious about bringing my expectations too high
Yeah.
because they haven't met them. So I'm just like, this could be really cool, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, there was a couple pieces I was like, "Wait, what?" Some of the editing felt a
Hmm.
little junky. There was one scene in particular where there was an editing thing where I felt like it was like it felt jumpy. But Keihu Kwan again, you I mean, give me more. Give us more, give us more, give us more. And and we'll get to it, but I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. What I hope is going to happen in episode 4, but I'm trying to keep my expectations like you. I'm trying to keep them low because I don't want to get disappointed.
And the music in this episode was good, but it can take you out of the
Hmm.
episode, is what I'll say before we go into our spoiler alert. If you didn't watch the episode,
What are you doing
leave,
here? Go watch it. Come back.
leave, watch the episode, come back, go watch our episode 1 review, and then come back here. But we start off in 1868 Chicago on the sacred timeline, which I like that they're telling us when they're on the sacred timeline and when they're on a branch timeline
Yeah.
in the little thing at the bottom. And we get Miss Minutes. And as I said in our episode 1 review, I do not trust Miss Minutes.
We
Uh,
about to find out why,
we can find out why, but still, there's even more that I don't trust about Miss Minutes, even though we don't know everything about her.
right? She
But
creepy.
we find out that he who remained, he had a plan for if he died, if Sylvia were to kill him, he had a plan in place for one of his variants to basically create himself. So that little time loop there of Ramona Renslayer giving him the TVA book, and then him in the adult life coming to what was it, 1893 Chicago
Hmm.
World's Fair. So it's setting up basically the new He Who Remained, the new Kang variant. Thoughts on that beginning stuff there?
Two things on this. I really enjoyed that they showed that he was inventing already.
Mm-hmm.
That it was um, giving him that we're seeing what the package was. As we saw what the package was, so that later on when we're in 1893 and he pulls it out and it's worn and tattered and all this jazz. And again, we had a Kehu Kwang like reference later, but we'll get to it. But it's a again, it's this really cool. I love the fact is they started off and they just immediately jumped right into it. We didn't go back to the TVA and waste time with the TVA. We just jumped right into 1868 Chicago, and you're like, wait, what? Renslayer's here, and then Miss Minute showed up, and you're just like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And then you should then they're having this conversation, and you're kind of seeing like what is motivating both Renslayer and Miss Minutes to do what they're doing. And to me, I felt like they were setting up. They were beginning to set up like a flip for Renslayer. We'll get to it later, but um, some of the comments and things that she was talking about with minutes made a lot of sense, and you're just, oh, okay. And then she drops the book in the window, and you're like, oh snap, are they going to? And they did. You know, we get to see Kang, we get to see a
Yeah,
Kang a variant, and like it was I'm glad they didn't waste time in this episode. I felt like if you'd have gone more than 3 episodes and not shown him yet, um but
yeah.
yeah.
I kind of like two of the "What is in this for me?" And Miss Minutes lying says, "If you do this, you'll be at the top with He Who Remains and me. Don't forget, I'll be there too." Kind of, and it's these two women, one an AI and one like a real woman, fighting for this type of power. So it's the beginning of the interesting dynamics of Renslayer and Miss Minutes in this episode.
Yeah.
But we go back to the TVA, and Docs didn't solve anything. The branches are growing back. And they need Miss Minutes to override the temporal loom because Miss Minutes basically has authority to do everything in the TVA. And they go, if we find Renslayer, we find Miss Minutes. And they go to 1868 and then jump forward in time to 1893, the Chicago World's Fair. And we get to see like Victor Timely, Kang right there. The cadence of his voice, the way he was speaking, very interesting.
So good.
Thoughts on this Chicago World Fair in 1893?
I really enjoyed it. I was honestly like when he was doing his whole it felt very Howard Stark in Captain America First Avenger to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was loving it. Like that was like to me, Victor Tomley in this episode is the highlight of this. If I had to pick a highlight of this episode, it's Victor Tomley because I felt like he does a really great job. The stuttering thing, the fact that he's an inventor, but he's also a con artist a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like it's this whole. So you see these people that are trying to like they seem very skeptical, and he knows they're going to be skeptical, and then he does it, and you're just like, whoa, and he creates the loom, and the loom is going for like the few minutes
Mm.
it goes. And just like Howard Stark in the first Avenger, where the car rises and he goes like, I didn't say it was in the future, right? Um, Same thing here, where he plays it off, and people are still like, whoa,
Yeah.
like, and it's just like, and it's just. it's great. Again,
Yeah.
it's like it was so well done. It was such a really good thing. It shows him, and you also you kind of feel for him a little bit
Yeah.
because you're kind of like, I don't want to put him on the. I'm not gonna. I'm waiting until the episode ends, the series ends before I put him there. But I feel like they're trying to build him into a Killmonger-esque villain where you kind of root for him a little bit.
Mm.
So and I'm going there, but like again, Victor Timely to me is just it was perfect. He was spot on in this one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that stutter really brings you in and makes you feel for him. But don't let that stutter fool you because he's a hustler and a trickster. And I was like, that's perfect for Loki because Loki's a hustler and a trickster. One quote that I really enjoyed from him in this is all science is fiction until it's fact. And I was like,
Beautiful.
oh, that's
Oh,
good. That's so good. Um, I know that you're a Trekkie. I'm not a Trekkie, but Star Trek has basically went into the future and basically saw what we were going to have now in the current time with like cell phones and things of that nature. So really, all science is fiction until it's fact. And I was like, yep, I loved that.
yeah, and I also think that they're harkening back to Thor, like the first Thor movie, where
Mm,
the first Thor movie he goes like, "Well, you think it's this and magic and it's science, but I come, it's one of those where it's one of the same
mm-hmm,
thing." And I feel like it's a beautiful thing that they're kind of like hinting back at other things to like pull everything together, and I'm enjoying it, but you know, come on, Marvel, I'm just like again trying to keep my expectations to a certain level.
yeah.
Yeah, but
I will
yeah.
say in this time period at the Chicago World Fair, the music was taking me in and out. Sometimes it felt a little too cartoonish, especially when you're going into the chase scene of those villains seemed
Does
cartoonish.
villains
Those
does villains seem too mustache twirly to me? The
yeah,
guy with the little
and they had the
henchman.
legit
Oh
like
god, he had the legit like thing, and I'm just like, oh god. And then the guy that comes up and was like, "Hey, I'll run up to you later with the pants, like with the pants
yeah,
later," and you're just like, "Oh sweet Jesus, like I get it. He's a hustler. Like let's go
yeah.
with this." And you know, you know, w-
I
I don't know.
I would have liked it if it was a little more mob like
Yeah,
and less mustache twirling cartoon villain
yeah.
like in those scenes. Like, I'm fine if there's a chase scene because we saw in episode 2 that wonderful chase scene of getting X5 and
Mhm.
Loki going after him. And I was like, that's a really good chase scene. And then we go to this very cartoonish chase scene in this episode and with the cartoonish music. And I was like, okay, this is taking me out of it a little bit when we just saw a really good performance of Victor Timely. So I was like, what kind of vibe are you trying to give me
Right.
here?
And especially when they take him up into the Ferris wheel with the mustache twirly villain, and he
Mm-hmm.
escapes him. But then you're wondering, like, are the mustache twirly villains going to do something? Like they're in the car, they kept showing him looking up
Mm-hmm.
at them, and you're just like, wait, what? Like, just why do you keep referencing them back? It's just like it was one of those where I was just, you're right. Like it was a thing with me where like you're pulling me out, and I want to stay
Yeah.
in this whole thing.
Right.
Especially after you have the reveal where Sylvie shows up. Like it's
Yeah.
just what are you doing here? Like, yeah.
And that scene too, where you have Sylvie shows up because he said she told Loki that any variant of Kang of He Who Remains, she will kill. And so she shows up, and that conversation, and that we have again Loki and Sylvie versus each other, even though they love each other because they're the same person and they're narcissistic, but which we saw in episode 2. But to have like these great scenes and these great acting moments and then to like go back to the mustache twirling villains, I was just like, okay, we need to keep it at one vibe. What vibe are we at?
Right. And I feel like this episode also probably could have been two, a little bit.
Mm,
Because there were parts where I felt like, you know, especially after like they escape because of the Sylvie showing up, and then they're going back to Like it's some interesting. It was some things where I was just like, wait, it's again this. It was like the editing seemed a little off too, and I was just like, wait, what's going on here? So
But we do get the Miss Minutes scaring all those people. The scene that we saw in the trailer, which made me laugh. I I liked it.
ooh,
um,
ooh.
yeah, it's, and then I also found it funny. It was just a small little tidbit, but Mobius bringing up a tandem bike for him and Loki to ride on, and we don't see it again at all in the episode. But it literally, as we talked in the review of the first episode, the relationship that Mobius and Loki have, and them together, and the building of it, and as much as they like hate each other, they also love each other, and they also care so much for each other, and it's you can see that just there in a tandem bike.
It was a really great comedic moment that just
Hmm.
it wasn't like a one liner laugh, but also just it was a callback to other things, and yeah, it was great. It was fabulous.
Now we learn, I mean, we kind of assumed, but we get it for real told to us. He who remains created Miss Minutes. So I'm going to go into a little theorizing here, asking you, why do you think he who remained created Miss Minutes? Because we'll go into a little later what Miss Minutes does. And I don't know if that's exactly what he who remained would want from her.
So this is like you spoke of my Star Trek love later earlier, and like they've had these times in before where a person has created AI and they've
Mhm.
done it because they're lonely, so they wanted to create a partner, basically their perfect partner. And maybe that's what he and honestly I feel like they were kind of alluding to that he did it as a perfect partner because he would spend all this time with her playing chess. He always had this, conversations and talking to her and having this relationship with her.
A little bit of a her
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's one of those like and you've seen it in multiple sci-fi things where again where I feel like this is one of the reasons why he did it was like but did he? It's a mystery. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
you're going this way, but then you're gonna misdirect to another way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like it's one of those where, I- yeah,
Yeah.
now she's jilted, because it's
Hmm.
like it's the whole, I love the effect when they did do it, and she does do it where like and then he gets scared, so he turns her off,
Hmm.
like, and then it jilts her, and it's just like, but it's this thing where I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And going into that, Miss Minutes, you can see on the boat, her face. She is jealous of Renslayer, which we kind of got in the first episode when they were playing the recording that not Victor Time, Kang. Let's just say Kang was talking. He who remains, Victor Timely, all his names, um, was talking to Renslayer, and you can tell that there is a relationship there, and Miss Minutes knows of that relationship, and Miss Minutes, you could see on her face that she's jealous of Renslayer, and then when she has him drop her into friggin' the lake, uh,
And
and
that was the part, so that I was talking to you
yeah,
where, like, it was a very jump because I was just like, because they're having this really cute moment,
mm,
and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, she's in the water, and you're just
yeah,
like, sorry, I'm
and
like,
and it shows you that Miss Minutes is running everything because at they were saying this was what he who remains wants, and going through the episode, I was like, I don't think this was his plan. I think this was Miss Minutes' plan on what to do, because I don't I don't know, and this is my theory. I'm putting my theory cap on. Um, I don't know if he did actually have a plan. That's what Miss Minutes told us. I think Miss Minutes had a plan to bring him back because she misses him. Because we see later in their lab, that she's in love with him and she wanted an actual body to be able to be with him.
The other thing I think could be doing it is he's early. Like they're creating him early, and so
Mm,
he's not ready to get to that point yet. But
yeah.
she's trying to move him quicker to that point so she can get her body. 'Cause that's where I think
Mm.
that you could easily do the. Oh man.
I would think, though, if I was he who remained and I wanted one of my variants to take over if something happened to me, I wouldn't put it someone who is so far in the past where technology is hindering him, because we even see from Victor Timely that he's kind of alluding to the fact that the time that he lives in, the technology is not forward enough for what he read in that the TVA handbook and what the inventions he has in his mind, which we know that from inventors in real life. The time period that they lived in, they didn't have the resources to match their intellect.
But I did love the one thing I did love is the fact is, and this is the thing I'm super excited about, is they name drop Kehu Kwang's character.
Mm,
Like he wants to meet him. Like
yeah,
he's fanboying over him. So I can't wait until he meets him. Like I'm really hoping. Again, I'm trying to temper my expectations of what that meeting is going to be like, because I
yeah,
can't wait to have him meet him and them working. Like it's just, it's also because he's a variant. Is it possible that he's a good guy?
yeah. It and was he who remains a bad guy? We know Kang is a bad guy,
Hmm.
but was he who remained a bad guy? Is Victor Timely a bad guy? We don't know yet. Um, but after he does turn off Miss Minutes in his lab, which is in Wisconsin for tax purposes, um, which
That
I
was
thought that
funny.
was funny.
That was that
The-
line. That line
yeah.
was hilarious. There was like, yeah, it was like as someone who used to live in Chicago and has done the whole, Wisconsin Chicago thing, and I know people that lived in Wisconsin for tax
Mm-hmm.
purposes because it was cheaper
Yeah.
in Wisconsin to live, and they commuted by train to Chicago. Um, I honestly, it's just like it was such a funny line, and I just absolutely I loved it. I loved it.
And we have everyone showing up in that lab. First, we have Renslayer with the pruning, the mega pruning stick that she has, kind of looking like the grandma in Blue Beetle, a little bit.
I was wondering
Um,
if you were gonna like what your thoughts were of
and
that reference.
then you have Loki and Mobius showing up, and Renslayer kind of like, see what happens when I left. The TVA is falling apart. I am order, and I'm going. I wonder how much this is true. And then at the same time too, I was like, yeah, I would be a woman to keep everything in order. And the second she leaves, it all goes to shit.
It was a thing where I felt like they were trying to turn her for a second, where
Mm,
I felt like would Renslayer have like because I think Renslayer would have gone back
mm,
with them if it hadn't have been for Miss Minutes.
yeah, because then Sylvie shows up,
Oh, and
and
her entrance was just fabulous.
and
Like
she lets Loki and Mobius take Victor back to the TVA, but she goes, leave her to me with Renslayer. And if we remember from season one, Renslayer was the hunter who came after her to prune her originally. And so Renslayer was the one to ruin her life. And she has imagined this day, the day to kill her in
and then
gruesome ways.
and then
And she
she
goes,
doesn't.
leave her with me. And she does it.
She doesn't kill her. I
Mm-hmm.
like because they said like this one's on you. They said
Mm-hmm.
Sylvie says that to Loki and Mobius about like when they let Timely go, and like this one's on you if he messes up. I feel like this one's on her, and this is again where I feel like she's very one dimensional. You're and again, I'm going to sound like Roka here for a minute. Um, they don't know what they're doing with Sylvie, because
Mm,
she's so angry and she's doing this whole bitter angry thing, but then she has these moments where it makes these decisions where you're just like, wait a second, why are you making this decision? Everything you told
yeah,
us in writing is basically said you're gonna kill her, you want to kill her, you want to kill
yeah,
her, and then you just basically kick her through a time portal and leave her
yeah.
there.
And she does the Sparta kick to her through the time portal to the end of time where she killed He Who Remains. The same Sparta kick that she did the last episode of season one to Loki. So I guess that's her move.
Yeah, right. We have to nickname it. We can't call it the Sparta kick anymore. We have to call it the Sylvie kick.
Mm.
Oh, going back a
Um,
little bit for a second. Speaking of Sparta kicks, did you love the nice little reference when Mobius and Loki are walking through the fair, and they see the Odin, Thor, and
mm,
yeah, and he's not
Thor
even
isn't
on
that
there.
tall.
Yeah, he's not that tall, and there's like, are you mad because
Mm.
you're not on this?
Yeah, it was funny. Um, and not just Renslayer kicked through the door. Does she have a thing that she's because we saw him controlling Miss Minutes on a temp pad. So is her temp pad also control of Miss Minutes as well? Because Miss Minutes shows up at the end of time and she tells Renslayer, I know a secret about you, and you're gonna be real. I can tell you, but you'll be real angry. And that is where we cut to black. So thoughts on the end there, and how did Miss Minutes show up there as well?
So here's another one of the editing things where I was kind of surprised, and I watched it twice just so I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
They made it seem like she took the pad that Timely had,
Okay.
but it's not apparent. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, because it's just like, so because it's got to be the one that Timely had based off of, like, because Miss Minutes comes out
Mm,
right, like pops right back out like she's finishing her line that she was saying to Timely earlier. So, but the you don't really apparently see her like sleight of hand, you know, take it from him. But again, I'm interested to see where this is going with the whole Miss Minutes and Renslayer thing.
mm,
Like, to me, it feels like, again, she might be a love interest of Kang.
yeah, obvious.
Yeah, and like that's where it's gonna be a thing. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
I was gonna say, do you think the secret is the obvious that she's a love interest of King, which I think would be the case anyways, or is the secret something else? The secret being who she was beforehand, which we saw in season one that she was like a teacher or principal.
his mom.
Um, ooh, that I never thought of that. I don't know about that, but so what do you think the secret is?
Okay, so the I'm gonna sound like Mike and Boggs here for a minute, of my
Mm,
anti-Marvel talk, but like, I feel like how lame the writing has been for some of the Marvel stuff, it's gonna be a love interest nonsense. However, I would really love it if it was something a little bit more curveball-y, like
mm,
his mom, like his teacher, his
mm.
inspiration, or some sort of like something else other than the love. I don't want the love triangle. I don't want the love interest. I really don't. I feel like it's
I think
it's
it's there already though.
right. Yeah. But I feel
I'm
like
fine with the love interest if they do it correctly because they are love interest in the comics. So to me, that doesn't bother me. But I hope that the secret is not just that because we've all guessed that already.
well, again,
And I think even if
yeah.
you haven't read the comics, just the recording on the first episode, you can guess that. So I hope the secret is something in addition to that.
But I also want the female characters to be stronger than just a love interest for a male character. Like, I need
Mm,
them to be more than that. There needs to
yeah.
be more than this. Like, Sylvie's thing is that she's a love interest of Loki. Outside of the whole I want to kill every variant of Kang. Like, it's just and Renslayer, they were moving Renslayer as kind of like a love interest of Mobius or vice versa or something at the very beginning
Yeah, in
in
the first
season
season, yeah.
one. So it's just like I just want that. I want more. I
Hey, Hunter
need.
B-15 though.
I would honestly love it, but I don't see Marvel, doing that. No. Uh-uh. Um,
I'm fine with love if it's done right.
right, but I just don't trust their
Yeah,
writing team right now for being done right,
yeah,
because I feel like it's one of those that'll be just like, oh, see, they're just in love, cardboard,
Mhm.
yay. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, we will see.
I am,
uh,
but again, next episode, I want them. I want a nice little 5-10 minute like conversation
mhm.
between Victor Timely and Ouroboros. I need it. Like
Yeah.
it's just I need some Ke Hu Kwang with him going like you made all this. Oh my god! Like this and it's
Hmm.
like you did but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
need that. I need their if they're working on that to fix the door. I need them to like him also like I'm pulling this out and that he built the same thing and it's just like I need some of that fanboying stuff
Yeah.
going on because I need Ke Kwan. Like there's how you save the show. There's the season. The show is if you give me more Ke Kwan, just give me more and more and more Ke Kwan.
So, wrapping up here, what is the biggest positive of this episode and what's the biggest negative of this episode?
Victor Timely is definitely the positive for me. Um, just because I thought like um, I'm blanking on his name right now. The actor. But that he just does a fantastic job. And I would honestly, if we're going to run into more variants of his throughout the season,
Hmm.
which the trailers kind of hinted at it, maybe. So I can't wait because I love that aspect of showing an actor's strengths by playing multiple characters of the same
Yeah.
person. Um, I can't wait. Um, the negative I would probably be is um just like you said, the music, some of the mustache. I need the villains of the. I don't
Yeah.
need like a villain of the week type of thing. But I do need the mustache twirly villains. Just no, we don't need them anymore. Just there's enough characters right now. Just focus on the characters that we have and just
Yeah.
let's not go
Well,
from
they
there.
were definitely an episodic character, so they shouldn't be in any other episode. So like I'm okay if that's the worst thing because that's my negative as well. That's the worst thing, then that's not bad, right? So I agree on the negative there. My positive, I'm gonna go with the conversations of Victor Timely and other characters, whether it be Miss Minutes and Renslayer, because I agree that he was one of the best parts of this episode, and I'm excited to see what he does and his variants do in following episodes. But the conversations that people have, it's kind of when we were watching Secret Invasion, I joked that that show could be called two great actors sitting in a room having a conversation. Um, Even though I don't like the ending of
Oh,
that show.
the ending is such a the ending of that show, and I don't want to turn this into a let's
Yeah,
pile on
yeah.
Secret Invasion because it's been done 100 million times. But like that show is so good until the
Mm,
and like the last episode is like such a
yeah,
travesty. And like there's rumors online where Kevin Feige's going to reboot the MCU, soft reboot the MCU, which it'll be interesting if that happens. Again, this is not the platform for that right now, but like you know, but again, like you saw where they stopped Daredevil Born Again, so it looks like Kevin Feige's like pressing pause on
yeah.
these shows.
And I'm
Um,
sure the writer's
yeah.
strike had stuff to do with that as well. But so I would go again to this episode had two great actors sitting in a room talking to each other, even if that one actor is a animated clock. So
Are we gonna see? I got a question for you though, Saul. are we gonna see a real life Miss Minutes though at some point during this?
Yeah.
Like, is she
Do
gonna
we see
stop
some
being
Tara Strong in real life?
right? Yeah. Are we gonna see some? Are we gonna see her
I
in real
have
life?
no idea. But so I really enjoyed that stuff in Secret Invasion, and I enjoy that stuff in movies and TVs when actors are acting their heart out and saying real shit, you know? And in that it's not just an exposition dump, but they are able to move things forward and you're able to understand them more from where they're coming from. So I would say that is my biggest positive of this episode. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Uh, can we just have the next episode be just like I said? Can Victor Timely and Ouroboros just sitting in a room? I just you said the
Two
two
great
great
actors sitting in a
actors
room.
talking sitting in a room.
Yeah.
I'll take that for the half an hour.
Yeah.
Just we'll that's our episode next week. This let's just
It's
make
the
that the
whole
episode,
episode.
and
Yeah.
you'll have a 5 star. You'll get a 5 star episode if you're just because it's just one of those where it'll just be a positive win throughout the entire thing, and it just yeah, so good.
Hmm. Well, I'm Sol. That's Jason. This is Off the Wall. Thank you for joining us and watching. To those watching us live, thank you. Those coming back, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below any of your thoughts and theories on this episode. And we'll see you next week for episode 4. And we're still live.